I added Monster Energy to F1 2022's My Team Career Mode and simulated 10 seasons. Can Monster Energy be as dominant as Red Bull in F1? Stay tuned to find out. My name is Chris, welcome back to CFRacing and enjoy the video. Hello everybody, Chris here, otherwise known as CFRacing, and welcome back to another simulation video. Today's simulation is one of the most anticipated simulations that you guys have really wanted ever since F1 2021, and basically ever since I started my channel. So today guys, we are simulating Monster Energy. If you don't know what Monster Energy is, then you must be living under a rock, because besides Red Bull and of course, you know, Rich Energy, it is one of, if not the most popular energy drink companies and just global sporting brands and across the world. Monster Energy basically sponsors a whole bunch of like NASCAR teams, sponsors a bunch of like racing sports basically, and a bunch of extreme sports. It's basically Red Bull's biggest competitor, so I'm going to be adding them to F1 2022 and simulating 10 years. But first guys, if you're new here and you enjoy simulation content like this from me, hit that like button, subscribe, share with your friends, because I'm sure they would like simulations, because who doesn't? And with that being said, let's get into the admin for Monster Energy. So for all 10 years of Monster Energy, I selected one driver to be the, I would say, main driver for the foreseeable future for Monster Energy. And this driver is sort of a Mercedes colleague or Mercedes driver. He is a Formula E world champion. I believe he's currently leading the Formula E world title right now. And Nick De Vries is finally going to be getting a shot in Formula 1, and I'm going to be adding him as my Monster Energy created player driver. So he will be on the team for all 10 years. And to start off this simulation, the second driver is going to be a driver who does have a lot of potential. Currently is not in the Mercedes Junior program, but is a driver who is in a Sauber Junior program. And I selected Theo Pourchaire to be the second driver for Monster Energy, as I'm sure they would like a nice young driver to partner alongside Nick De Vries. And like I've been mentioning before, I've said a few things about Mercedes, so the engine supplier for Monster Energy for all 10 seasons. Monster Energy does sponsor Mercedes, or if not, they sponsor Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, so I think there is a good partnership there. And last, but certainly not least, here is the livery for all 10 seasons for Monster Energy. In Season 1, 2022, Charles Leclerc wins his first ever World Drivers' Championship, taking 14 wins on the year, taking 420 points. Nice to finish in first place. Carlos Sainz takes 1 win, 276 points to finish in P2. Max Verstappen takes 1 win, 233 points to finish in P3. And one thing I'm adding in these, I created a team and added to F1 simulations that I'll be telling you where the drivers of that team finish in the standings. So Nick De Vries finishes in P13 with 15 points, and Theo Pourchaire finishes in P18 with 0 points. Quite a tough rookie season for him. Ferrari win their first Constructors' Championship since 2008, with Red Bull in P2, Mercedes P3, Alfa Romeo P4, Alpine P5, Haas P6, McLaren P7, Monster Energy P8, AlphaTauri P9, Aston Martin P10, and Williams in dead last. In the driver transfer market, Fernando Alonso decides to retire from Formula 1. That moves Max Verstappen to Alpine. To replace Verstappen at Red Bull, we have Sebastian Vettel. Valtteri Bottas goes to Aston Martin. Nicholas Latifi goes to Alfa Romeo. Yuki Tsunoda goes to Williams. George Russell goes to AlphaTauri. Lance Stroll goes to Mercedes. Zhou Guanyu goes to Aston Martin. Dan Ticktum goes to Alfa Romeo. Oscar Piastri gets his shot at Alpine. And Esteban Ocon heads to free agency, as he could not find a seat for 2023. And also going into 2023, there is a regulation change to the aero and power departments. In 2023, Charles Leclerc wins his second consecutive World Drivers' Championship, taking 10 wins on the year and 351 points to finish in P1. Lewis Hamilton has a great season, taking 3 wins, 232 points to finish in P2. Lando Norris takes 2 wins, 197 points to finish in P3. Sebastian Vettel takes 184 points to finish in P4. Carlos Sainz takes 1 win, 180 points to finish in P5. Nick De Vries takes 38 points to finish in P10. And Theo Pourchaire takes 3 points to finish in P15. Ferrari win their second consecutive Constructors title of the simulation, followed by Mercedes in P2, Red Bull P3, McLaren P4, Alpine P5, AlphaTauri P6, Monster Energy P7, Haas P8, Aston Martin P9, Williams P10, and Alfa Romeo drops 7 spots to finish in dead last. In the driver transfer market, Sergio Perez decides to retire from Formula 1. To take his spot is George Russell as he moves to Red Bull. Valtteri Bottas goes to AlphaTauri. Esteban Ocon goes to Aston Martin. Felipe Drugovich goes to Aston Martin. Oscar Piastri leaves Alpine and goes to AlphaTauri. Robert Schwartzman takes Piastri's spot at Alpine. Zhou Guanyu goes back to Alfa Romeo, and that leaves Pierre Gasly and Dan Ticktum as free agents as they cannot find a seat for 2024. Also, going into 2024, there is no regulation change. In 2024, Charles Leclerc wins his 3rd consecutive World Drivers' Championship, taking 12 wins on the year, 378 points to finish in P1. George Russell takes 3 wins on the year, 310 points to finish in P2. Sebastian Vettel takes 1 win, 236 points to finish in P3. Nick De Vries takes 46 points to finish in P9. And Théo Pourchaire takes 5 points to finish in P13. Ferrari win their 3rd consecutive Constructors title of the simulation, followed by Red Bull in P2, Mercedes P3, Alpine P4, McLaren P5, Monster Energy P6, AlphaTauri P7, Haas P8, Alfa Romeo P9, Williams P10, and Aston Martin in dead last. In the driver transfer market, after 3 rough seasons for Théo Pourchaire, Monster Energy decide to go with Nicholas Latifi as he moves to Monster Energy. Pierre Gasly goes to Alfa Romeo. Felipe Drugovich goes to AlphaTauri. Dan Ticktum goes to Aston Martin. Théo Pourchaire goes to Mercedes, huge step up for him. Lance Stroll goes to Red Bull. Sebastian Vettel goes to Alpine. Oscar Piastri goes to McLaren. Robert Schwartzman goes to Ferrari. Liam Lawson goes to Haas. Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, and Mick Schumacher all have no rides for 2025 and enter a free agency. And heading into 2025, there is a regulation change to aero, chassis, and durability, which will certainly shake up the grid for next season. In 2025, George Russell wins his first ever World Drivers' Championship, taking 14 wins on the season to take 423 points to finish in P1. Charles Leclerc takes 2 wins, 270 points to finish P2. Lance Stroll takes no wins, but 253 points to finish in P3. Nick De Vries takes 26 points to finish in P11, and Nicholas Latifi takes no points to finish in P18. Red Bull win their first Constructors title since 2013, followed by Ferrari in P2, Mercedes P3, Alpine P4, AlphaTauri P5, Monster Energy P6, Alfa Romeo P7, McLaren P8, Haas P9, Williams P10, and in a dead last we have Aston Martin. And in the driver transfer market, Daniel Ricciardo decides to retire from Formula 1. Sebastian Vettel takes Daniel Ricciardo's spot at McLaren. Yuri Vips moves to Alpine. Lando Norris goes to Monster Energy to replace Nicholas Latifi. Christian Lundgaard goes to McLaren. Mick Schumacher goes to Mercedes. Théo Pourchaire goes to Aston Martin. Nicholas Latifi goes to Williams, and that leaves Yuki Tsunoda as a free agent. And heading into 2026, there is no regulation change. In 2025, George Russell becomes a 2-time world champion as he takes 428 points and 15 wins to finish in P1. Charles Leclerc takes 1 win, 238 points to finish in P2. Lando Norris takes 126 points to finish in P7. And Nick De Vries takes 26 points to finish in P11. Red Bull win their second consecutive Constructors title of the simulation, followed by Mercedes in P2, Ferrari P3, Alpine P4, Monster Energy move up to P5, followed by McLaren in P6, AlphaTauri P7, Alfa Romeo P8, Haas P9, Williams P10, and Aston Martin in dead last. In the driver transfer market, Valtteri Bottas decides to retire from Formula 1. Zhou Guanyu goes to AlphaTauri. Mick Schumacher goes to Alfa Romeo. Liam Lawson goes to Mercedes. Christian Lundgaard goes to Aston Martin. Carlos Sainz goes back to Ferrari. Dan Ticktum goes to Mercedes. Oscar Piastri goes to Williams. Yuki Tsunoda goes to Haas. And that leaves Felipe Drugovich, Robert Schwartzman, Théo Pourchaire, and Nicholas Latifi all as free agents. And heading in to 2027, there is a regulation change to the power and durability departments. In 2027, George Russell wins his third consecutive World Drivers' Championship, taking 6 wins on the year, 328 points to finish in P1. Lando Norris takes 5 wins, 290 points to finish in P2. Lewis Hamilton takes 4 wins, 277 points to finish in P3. Charles Leclerc takes 1 win, 155 points to finish in P4. And Nick De Vries takes 118 points, his best season so far, to finish in P6. Red Bull win their third consecutive constructors title of the simulation, followed by Monster Energy having their best season so far as they move up to P2 with Lando Norris and Nick De Vries. Mercedes, followed by Ferrari in P4, McLaren P5, Alpine P6, Haas P7, Williams P8, AlphaTauri P9, Alfa Romeo P10, and Aston Martin in dead last. We got some crazy driver transfers in this season as Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton both decide to retire from Formula 1. That moves Juri Vips to Ferrari, Lirim Zandelli to Alpine, Robert Schwartzman goes to Mercedes, Dan Ticktum also goes to Mercedes, Felipe Drugovich to McLaren, Zhou Guanyu to Alfa Romeo, Mick Schumacher to AlphaTauri, Christian Lundgaard to AlphaTauri, Nicholas Latifi to Aston Martin, and Liam Lawson heads to free agency. And going into 2028, there is a regulation change to the chassis departments. In 2028, George Russell becomes a 4-time World Drivers' Champion as he takes 13 wins on the year, 387 points to finish in P1. Lando Norris takes 2 wins on the year, 236 points to finish in P2. Lance Stroll takes 226 points to finish in P3. Max Verstappen takes 1 win, 179 points to finish in P4. And Nick De Vries takes 88 points to finish in P6. Red Bull win their 4th consecutive World Constructors' Championship of the simulation, followed by Monster Energy in P2, Alpine P3, Mercedes P4, Ferrari P5, McLaren P6, AlphaTauri P7, Alfa Romeo P8, Haas P9, Williams P10, and Aston Martin in dead last. In the driver transfer market, Lirim Zandelli goes to AlphaTauri, Christian Lundgaard goes to Alpine, Lance Stroll goes to Mercedes, Teo Pourchaire goes to Red Bull, Marcus Armstrong goes to Alfa Romeo, Dan Ticktum goes to Aston Martin, Jehan Daruvala goes to Haas, Marcus Armstrong goes to Alfa Romeo, and that leaves Zhou Guanyu, Yuki Tsunoda, and Juri Vips as free agents. And heading into 2029, there is no regulation change. In 2029, Lando Norris wins his first ever World Drivers' Championship as he takes 14 wins on the year for Monster Energy to finish in P1. Nick De Vries takes his first win in Formula 1, taking 270 points to finish in P2. George Russell takes 223 points to finish in P3. And Max Verstappen takes 186 points to finish in P4. Monster Energy win their first ever World Constructors' Championship. It only took 8 seasons as Red Bull finish in P2, McLaren P3, Alpine P4, Mercedes P5, Ferrari P6, Alfa Romeo P7, Haas P8, Williams P9, AlphaTauri P10, and Aston Martin in dead last. In the driver transfer market, Max Verstappen retires from Formula 1, Yuki Tsunoda goes to Alpine, Liam Lawson goes to Alpine, Christian Lundgaard goes to Alfa Romeo, Sebastian Vettel goes to Monster Energy, Lando Norris goes to McLaren, Zhou Guanyu goes to Mercedes, Lirim Zandelli goes to Ferrari, Richard Verschoor goes to Williams, Pietro Fittipaldi goes to Aston Martin, Jack Aitken goes to AlphaTauri, Marcus Armstrong, Oscar Piastri, Dan Ticktum, and Robert Schwartzman all head to free agency. And heading in to 2030, there is a regulation change to the aero and durability departments. In 2030, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Sebastian Vettel wins his first World Drivers' Championship since 2013 and his 5th of his career as he takes 8 wins, 329 points to finish in P1. Nick De Vries also takes 8 wins, 320 points, but finishes in P2. Monster Energy win their second consecutive constructors title of the simulation, followed by Mercedes in P2, Alpine P3, McLaren P4, Red Bull P5, Ferrari P6, Haas P7, AlphaTauri P8, Alfa Romeo P9, Williams P10, and Aston Martin in dead last. In the driver transfer market, Carlos Sainz decides to retire from Formula 1. Sebastian Vettel leaves Monster Energy and goes back to Ferrari. I cannot believe this. Lance Stroll goes to Monster Energy. Lando Norris goes to Mercedes. Oscar Piastri goes to McLaren. Zhou Guanyu goes to Alpine. Liam Lawson goes to Williams. David Beckham, I think his name is, goes to Mercedes. Marcus Armstrong goes to Ferrari. Lorenzo Zandelli goes to Aston Martin. And Pietro Fittipaldi heads to free agency. Going into the final season, 2031, there is no regulation change. In 2031, it finally happened. Nick de Vries wins his first ever World Drivers' Championship, and he is the second Dutch driver to ever win a World Championship, behind obviously Max Verstappen, as Nick de Vries takes 9 wins, 318 points to finish in P1. Lance Stroll takes 2 wins, 268 points to finish in P2. George Russell takes 2 wins, 233 points to finish in P3. Lando Norris takes 2 wins, 206 points to finish in P4. And Sebastian Vettel takes one last win for Ferrari, 200 points to finish in P5. Monster Energy win their third consecutive of the simulation, followed by Ferrari in P2, Red Bull P3, Mercedes P4, Alpine P5, McLaren P6, AlphaTauri P7, Haas P8, Alfa Romeo P9, Williams P10, and Aston Martin in dead last. So this is going to be the end of this simulation here, but now guys, let's head to the final stats for all 10 years. So at the end of all 10 years, Red Bull was the most consecutive constructor of the simulation, taking 4 World Drivers' Championships. I made a mistake for Ferrari there. It's supposed to say 3, and also with 3, it is Monster Energy, as they take 3. Same with Ferrari, and Red Bull takes 4. In the World Drivers' Championship category, George Russell takes 4 World Drivers' Championships, Charles Leclerc takes 3, and Lando Norris, Sebastian Vettel, and Nick de Vries all take 1 World Drivers' Championship. And in the wins department, it was a very competitive 10-year simulation. Out of 160 races, George Russell takes 53 wins, Charles Leclerc takes 40, Lando Norris takes 25, Nick de Vries with 18, Sebastian Vettel with 10, Lewis Hamilton with 7, Max Verstappen with 3, Carlos Sainz with 2, and Lance Stroll with 2 wins. So guys, that is going to wrap it up for this simulation video. If you did enjoy and you want to see more like this, hit that like button, subscribe, share with your friends. Comment down below what team I should do next, and also join my Discord, links in the description. And with that being said, guys, hope you all enjoyed, and see you all next time. Goodbye.